Well. Look at it. I was actually going to talk about some good news today. However, this year 2020 is quite an interesting one. We have had just almost 3 months in, and things are looking pretty grim. 10% of human population on this earth is under lockdown. And one of the first major nations in Europe has been locked down. Places that has the virus in it. Normal schools, universities has been closed, even in cities that do not have the virus. And people are locked inside of their living apartment buildings, their neighborhoods. I was going to talk about Elokas today, the company that I'm very passionate about, and I would believe that under normal circumstances would do much great things. However, as you have noticed, we do not really live under normal circumstances. We don't. You have said it. In the last video, I got plenty of good feedback. And because of a few of your feedbacks, I was thinking of doing a video about Elokas today. The company that is essentially a community collaboration. Artists, writers, people coming together, do stuff together. And it was going to be different. And I think I'm still going to do it. But I'm very much looking this closely. This situation happening in the world, wherever you are around the world, this is going to affect you. I live in Finland, one of the safest countries in the world. A country where a young child can go outside in night time, like an underage child, and be somewhat okay. Things are not going to get bad for them. Of course, if you are in the bigger cities right now, it has changed, unfortunately. But it used to be that, young children would be safe going outside. Even just one generation ago, people didn't lock their cars. People did not lock their doors. I think like two generations actually, yeah. But still, a huge change. And it's going to be a thing, this virus that is happening. It's going to kind of ruin everything around us. And I was going to talk about the Elokas, as I said, but I wanted to bring this information to you. I wanted to ask you, in which situation do you find yourself in? Just ask it yourself. Some of the people that watch this channel might live in Italy. Do you have a place to go in case of a big lockdown happens? Do you have things like food and water? Because I am not a prepper personality. I tell you, I am not this end of the world person that gathers food, inside of his locker, and all the kind of the tools and like weapons, and when anyone tries to come through the door, like no, I'm not that sort of person, and you know it. However, the things such as how even in Europe things are closing down. Italy is one of the major nations in the world. If things close down there, it must mean that other nations such as France, United States, United Kingdom, Germany, and many others, and I think even Finland, we are going to be having some problems. I am not sure are we going to have more lockdowns here in Finland, because Finland does have at least not major panic right now. People do know that the coronavirus is going, but they do not know the information. The information I'm looking out in the internet does look pretty grim. The fact that 10% of people that get the virus, they just drop down and stop breathing, essentially. It's like imagine this how all of our society is so fractured and built on a basis that it is so wobbly. It is the basis of it is very, very thin. If anything happens to it, it will go down. And I'm not saying this because I want to be over dramatic. I'm not trying to build anything up. I am truly concerned, and many people are. In Finland, just a few weeks ago, when this corona thing started happening, people started buying masks and such. Of course, there's still food in the shops. Everything is still stable. But the fact of the matter that if the incubation period, the period when you get the disease, yet you do not show any symptoms, but you spread it, it's 30 days. The whole country of Finland could have actually gotten the disease now, and it would take 30 days for us to know it. This is huge. Things are getting cancelled, like the Venice Carnival, I heard. A major event in the world. I don't know what is going to happen with the Olympics, because that is going to be, of course, a major thing that could spread it. And I'm not sure how it's going to affect personal lives of you. For me, I kind of woke up last 2 weeks ago. And I was thinking, hey, this starts to look very grim, and the fact that it spreads and such, I have personally done little preparations, not in a mad sense of the word. I have food that, if everything goes well, I can still eat, and everything is like, hey, everything is fine. I have a place with my family to go to. And people around me have been seriously talking about if things lock down, like what we should do. And this is... I would have not been able to understand that this sort of situation is escalating so quickly. Like, this might be one of the most major events in the modern history. And the virus might not be the biggest thing that we should worry about, but about what is going to happen to our societies. Because let's imagine 10% of people just disappear because of the virus. And our economy is built on such a thin layer. What if food production and delivering and such, and shops and such just go down, and if only 10% of, let's say, population of United States disappear because of the virus? I don't know. It's huge. It's huge, and already we are seeing that this is much bigger than any other infectious thing that has happened to us in the past. There have been many big flus, swine and bird and all these big flus, but not like this. So I wanted to bring you this idea, and I wanted to ask you, have you been thinking about this? Do you have some preparations? Do you have something prepared? Because I'm genuinely worried of the people that are watching this. I do see many people having this thing behind their ears. But what I mostly see is that, like I read some news that, army people in the States, they are purchasing some foods and such, like hugely. Some people, especially looking at bigger governments, they are really thinking this is the big deal, because of course they're not going to say it, but you have to take people's actions more seriously rather than their words. If someone is saying you everything is all right, but that's at the same time preparing like a madman, things are not all right. And I know I'm a composer, I should not be really going into this area, but this is seriously what I'm concerned about. And I'm concerned about lives of people that live in these big populated areas. Populated areas that cannot sustain themselves if food is not delivered from the outside. My good thing is the fact that I'm able to get away from the city easily because we have a place to go, and we already do produce food ourselves. Of course, not in the biggest manner, but now summer is coming, so if things like really go bad, for me it doesn't look that grim. But for others, I would imagine so. I would imagine so if there's no place to go, and if society breaks. And I don't want to tear you, I don't want to bring this sort of like a fear into your mind. No, this is not my point. I wanted to perhaps get your ideas. Have you already had these sort of fears? And have you looked at the situation? And if you haven't, I seriously ask you to do it. This might be big. But, let's say if things go well. Let's say that if things go well, what do we have on our hand? Well, as I said, I had this plan on this year to continue and making the Elokas thing. I was very positively surprised on the feedback I got from the last video. And I thank you especially the people that had very long messages on there, or very thoughtful messages. I did not really realize I would get it. And as I mentioned in the last video, I thought I would get around 20 views or so and not much reaction. But I was very... It was a kind of a good way for me to get my steam out on the situation and how I felt. And I wanted to get my idea as well with this video out. What is happening. And I'm usually a very rational guy. I do not really jump on bandwagons. At least I want to believe that. And when a big kind of popular things happens, usually I'm kind of staying in the background, assessing the situation. And usually if people start just saying, "Oh, panic, panic, panic! Big world-changing phenomena is happening," usually I'm kind of like, let's just wait. But this is kind of in a different scale, and the biggest worry I do have, especially the news I heard here, and one of my subscribers mentioned about the Venice and how it's kind of sinking, and people of course living in those places in big populated areas. Someone might be looking at this and they are going to, let's say, university right now or studying and working. What if your university is just closed, like in Italy, in many places? What are you going to do? What is your plan? What are you going to do? Well, the thing is, if that's the case, things have already kind of gone haywire, as they say. If there's a situation that society breaks down, and these are the symptoms of it, or society locks itself down, which of course in its own right is a bad thing as well. It's going to be very hard going forward, and I do fear on how this is going to go, because if this actually changes the world as where we're living so much, I might not be, personally, this is my kind of like this is kind of selfish, but I was thinking of, working on the game, making Elokas, and if this is going to be true, I'm going to lose all those sort of ideas of doing that, because of course people are going to just have like food and go to countryside and be there and see how the world like just goes, or not. I very much hope not. I am not person to really wanting the world apocalypse kind of thing. But I want to tell you this: there might be something big happening, something very big. And in which situation are you in if this is a big thing? And if it's not even, like consider this: if anything else like this could happen in the future, which is a possibility, which is a thing that could happen, how well people are actually prepared to take these sort of things. It's kind of sad because when there's like an art creation thing, when there's this sort of thing that everything our lives is currently based upon the system that we have around us, and the system is not well. The global it's not well. It's not well, and we are seeing the marks of it. I personally, I'm going to continue my work as it stands on Elokas thing. I'm going to be working on some projects. One of the ones I got just a moment ago is one that I have this collaborator from a board game developer to whom I'm going to make this digital version of that board game happening. And that is a major project I'm going to be doing in the next 2 months. We shall see how that turns out to be. Hopefully this madness has already kind of went away when that happens. When that ends. I don't want to have this happen. Let's hope it does not. But that's what I'm working on. It's kind of interesting to work with an already established game, and we just signed papers. I'm ready to go and start working on it. The thing is, you might not know, but as I've worked on the Elokas, I'm going to be briefly introducing you to the idea. So, some of the people in the comments of the last video mentioned, anyways, yeah, some of the people mentioned what is Elokas and what is it all about, and one of the commenters, very good point made that is it a personal project of yours or is it a community project? It's very unclear, and I wanted to bring this information with a more positive video. But now in the aftermath, if you're still watching, and I think there might be still 1 or 2 people watching who might be from the last video, so the Elokas is not a project of me. I'm not the main goal of it. If I would be the main goal of it, I would have kept it as eluukkanen. But I felt like this is my feeling. I have been working in the past few years with artists that all have their own projects, and that's good. People should have their own projects. But I noticed that, hey, okay, there's an artist, let's say, that does this pretty cool comic about superheroes or something, and people like it. He posts some things about it, and people read it and such. But he does all the work alone, and it's very much this sort of all alone process that he works with. And in other cases, there's this person that, let's say, makes music. Or let's say writing or anything like this, and has only got himself in it, and wishes to really get their works out there. So where does Elokas come in this? It comes in form of a community that acts as a publisher. How? Well, let's just say the world of online could be much more easier with more people. I have myself worked on how to do marketing. I've now realized how Facebook works, which is good, to spread it around that place, and all the social medias and YouTube and such things like that. And it's a whole other work area. I know few people who already know this stuff. I know people who do editing stuff. I know people that do game stuff. That they sort of like they have the skills. And instead of one person learning all the skills, what if there would be a place that would be also acting as a community? People could meet each other, but at the same time work on different projects. And what I mean by projects, well, things that are planning to go big. You know, imagine this. You want to be a writer for a game. Well, what is the chances that you're going to be getting into a gaming company to write without prior experience? Well, it's kind of zero, to be honest. Because nowadays, with everything, you have to have experience. And what if there is a place like Elokas, which has this sort of idea of people that are already experienced, can come here, show their work and get paid. Like, that's the thing. Like, the whole thing is based because of the publishing side of things, that, you know, Elokas as a company, it's a company now. Like, it actually is a company. There's a thing that is developed by one of its members. Let's say that comic guy that has this popular superhero comic, let's say. And he wants to actually bring it more professional, let's say, and want to, you know, really get it out there, actually, let's say in paper form, and as such, you know, actually release it and get help from the Elokas to publish it, but at the same time start selling things on it. And that is the thing I wish to make, that people that already have some things, you know, they can bring them to Elokas if they with quality, as they have the quality, and you know, we as publisher help them to develop that into a feasible thing that can work. I've been working on ways to make my game, which I'm working on feasible. Also the music side of things, that is the main thing I work on. I do not study at the moment. I do not work in anywhere else at the moment. That is my main job. And so that is the one side of things. Elokas, publisher, people that are experienced come in. But at the same time, people that are new to the place. Many people I know, like writers, they are very good writers, musicians, animators, but they do not have the experience. And because of the experience of not working in these big companies, they can't get the job. And Elokas is this idea that with information of how to get forward with your craft, how to actually make your craft that you can actually live on it, you can actually get the work, that you have this big passion project, you are able to get this forward with the Elokas. This is the main idea of it. And if you are willing to use your skill and talent to participate in other projects made by other people, that is a way. And I have my personal project on it right now, which is called Final Fallacy, a game. The thing is that Elokas is still small. It only has 150 members in the Discord, and I'm only right now investigating on the possible investors that could invest money on this company, because like this actually as an idea is very good. People want to get this sort of quality creations like games, writings, and such. And there's a big thirst for things like games in this modern time and era, which are good quality. And what I think the biggest problem is that we have great things like that, you know, superhero comic or others. And they are not just, those people do not know the marketing things, they don't know the basic things of that, and they are not going to get chance of getting off. And Elokas would be that it would sell, and you know, these things like, let's say, game, you know, Final Fantasy, I'm going to be making that as a paid game, that is a thing, and you know, other things around it. It would get its money from that. That's the ultimate goal. But more ultimately, a community of artists. Because alone as artists, you're going to be having a hard time, I tell you. I've experienced it. I started in 2013. It has been successful for me. You know, not YouTube, of course. You look at the past video I made. But it has been a struggle. And I know the problem points. People, the artists, are usually very lone creatures with their ideas, with their beautiful and great ideas, but still alone with their ideas. And that is very essential point. It's a gamble if you're going to ever meet a person that is going to, get your, like you are going to send your copy of, let's say, a script to a publishing company, or like a book publishing company, let's say. And they have piles of scripts that are sent to them right now. All the publishers, they have that, and most of those go to trash can. Tell me, how is that way to really get into the industry? Especially when there's they do not actually read the music that much. And when it comes to music industry, there are two major companies that only produce most of the income, because they are giants. But at the same time, they focus on this one or two music styles, like very limited sort of music styles. And especially in Finland, it's a closed circle of people. Instead of having this sort of thing that is just connected on personal, connections, let's say your father knows someone and then you get to company. No, that's not the way Elokas is going to work. Elokas is going to work on basis of quality of your work. If your work is not quality, then, keep working on it, and you are one day going to get it into the quality. But at the same time, community is open for all people that want to come and learn. That's the key word, learn how these things are done. Because if I'm able to get the investments that I am calling to a place that might be doing an investment on this, because there's a big going into electric places like publishing, and of course studies and such, much more, virtual studies and such, these sort of things. So I'm able to, that is my goal on it. And if I'm able to do this at the same time as we do publishing, we're going to be doing a place that you can actually get your information how to be a writer from writers that are going to be coming to lecture inside Elokas, kind of like a virtual lectures. I have connection to people that actually write for things, and do music for video games, bigger games, and I personally know how many of the internet lands and such, how music are going to be got to, let's say, iTunes and these sort of places. I know this sort of thing. I have this knowledge on myself, but I know that others have other knowledge on, let's say, doing writing and such. I want Elokas to become this sort of bouncing ground for ideas, and a place where you, if you are part of the community long enough and work and show your talent, because that's of course the key, there has to be quality and passion on what you do. If you have that, things of like that, imagine this is like an example case. This is still far off because this is just beginning. An example case. Let's say that you have a very good idea on your own mind of what you want to do as a game, let's say, okay, game. Then you come to Elokas. You already perhaps have that as a product. Let's say you have already developed it, or you have an idea of it, and you want to push it forward. You come to there. I'm going to be making features that you are able to actually put some, share the stuff in there. The community can look at it. Of course, you still own the copyright of it. If we are not going to collaborate on that fact, and if things go either way, you're still of course owning that. So the only thing the community is going to give is the feedback. But in case if the idea is very good, I'm going to be of course there as this sort of leading figure of it, but there's going to be others. If the community and stuff thinks like your work is interesting, then we're going to push it. One reason I am stopping my music things and focusing on the Final Fallacy is the fact that I have got a lot of interest to it. I know that it might have a possibility of actually getting very big because of lack of these sort of games in this space right now. So that is my goal on it. People are, of course, free to be working on your works outside of the Elokas, working on pencil on projects. But I wish to make this place that individuals that are very shining high, painters, writers, and such. Why do we compete against each other on like one-to-one basis? Why not? Why not we just join together, work together, and make stuff happen? Many people, some people might have the idea that this things like that could not work. But I personally noticed, like with my own work, like just putting my own hours in and own investment in, like I'm able to get the game done. I have had the of course now, as I talked about the board game to virtual things, like that's one of the projects I'm doing at the side of the Final Fantasy, because that has no deadline as it stands right now. Things are going well for me personally, but I want to, instead of focusing on me and myself and just Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy, I am going to very much want to build a community, because I think that's what we lack in this modern day and age. A community of artists that we share this gripping feeling of the things that hardships we go to, whoever you are. Like if you do writing, if you have these ideas of I want to make this and that and this and that, people might laugh in your normal life. I've been very lucky to have much of encouragement on what I do. However, of course, you have to struggle still alone on it, because it's your work. However, building this sort of building place, this sort of bouncing ground, this sort of launchpad is the good word, for creations and community, to have people to, of course, meet one another, share their works, and really get the community spirit. That is what I wanted to achieve. That is the idea. And at the same time, if it grows, of course, it very much depends on the beginning of the on the Final Fantasy, but I think it looks good right now. Things are going well on that, and also I've also got the board game project. I'm going to put the money on the company from that, and such. Things are looking great. But yes, that is how Elokas works. Hopefully, you got the idea. Some ideas on that. Let me know, because so in the shortened term, Elokas is a publishing company, community-driven publishing company, where people online can come and share their own works, get involved in other works, and learn when it grows forward the ways of how to do their craft. And I personally, instead of want to be responsible of just my own work getting far, I want to be responsible to help other great artists and people get far. That is the idea. So hopefully the nasty things are not going to happen. I'm very worried. I wish you take some precautions. And if you have like, let's say, of course, not many people might have, some money to just take, let's say, storageable food for, let's say, 1 month, I would suggest that, because if things go bad, it might be good. Or if things do not go bad, well, you just have some extra food in your warehouse. All depends. Hopefully things are not going bad. What I want to do now with this, I'm going to be working on some remakes. I'm going to be streaming. I'm going to be working on the games and projects. I have this idea of releasing some videos on Heroes Might and Magic 3 and its music. Not my own works, but just some works of recently done stuff. I'm going to be showing more of you about that later on. But that's what I'm working on, and getting Elokas forward. And at the same time, this project and game, it's in the forefront. let's see where it goes. Let's see where it goes. I'm not going to burn out myself. I'm going to take steady steps. This was a very pleasure to me to do this video, and let me know what sort of ideas it gives you. Sincerely, I wish all the best for you. And whether you live in Italy, on these places that have been perhaps are in verge of lockdown, be careful. Really be careful. I wish you all the best. I wish this goes well.